The story first gained attention in 1988, when a teenager named Christopher Davis reported being attacked by a green, scaly, 7-foot-tall creature with glowing red eyes while fixing a flat tire near Scape Ore Swamp in Lee County. The creature was said to be humanoid in shape, covered in scales, and unusually strong. Over the weeks that followed, other residents claimed to see similar figures or discovered damage to vehicles, scratches, bite marks, and torn metal, which many attributed to the so-called lizard man. In the heart of Lee County, South Carolina, lies a vast, tangled wilderness known as Scape Ore Swamp. Dense forests of pine and cypress rise out of murky waters, where thick fog often rolls low across the marshes, and the cries of unseen animals echo in the night. Locals had always spoken of the swamp with a mixture of respect and unease, for it was the kind of place where the imagination could easily conjure things lurking in the dark. But in the summer of 1988, what had once been vague whispers of superstition exploded into national headlines when a terrifying legend took shape. The legend of the lizard man. The first widely reported encounter happened to Christopher Davis, a 17-year-old boy from Bishopville. On the night of June 29, Davis was returning home after a late shift at work. His route took him along a lonely stretch of road that cut through Scape Ore Swamp, where shadows seemed to swallow the headlights of his car. Fate turned against him when one of his tires went flat. With no houses nearby and no traffic to be seen, Davis had no choice but to stop and replace the tire himself. He pulled over to the side of the road, surrounded by the eerie silence of the swamp. After finishing the repair, Davis was packing his tools when he heard something unusual, a heavy rustling from within the tree line, like branches snapping under immense weight. At first he dismissed it, thinking it might be a deer or perhaps a wild dog. But then came a sound he could not ignore, a low, guttural growl that chilled him to his bones. He turned toward the swamp just as something enormous emerged from the shadows. Davis would later describe it as a 7-foot-tall creature, humanoid in shape but monstrously deformed. Its skin was covered in rough, greenish-black scales that glistened in the moonlight, and its eyes glowed a fiery red, as though lit from within. Its long fingers ended in razor-like claws, and its face, if it could be called a face, was more reptilian than human, with a wide mouth that twisted into what looked like a snarl. Davis froze in terror as the creature stepped onto the roadside, its heavy, wet-sounding footsteps crunching against the gravel. Suddenly, it lunged toward him. Panicked, Davis scrambled back into his car, slamming the door and fumbling for the ignition. But before he could pull away, the creature was upon him, its claws screeching against the metal, tearing at the roof and windshield. The car rocked violently as though some massive predator were trying to rip it apart. Davis pressed his foot hard on the accelerator, the tires screeching against the road. The beast clung on for a moment longer before tumbling off into the darkness, its glowing eyes the last thing Davis saw as he sped away. When he finally reached home, shaken and pale, his car bore the marks of the attack, deep scratches gouged into the paint and twisted metal dented inward as if by some monstrous force. In the days that followed, news of Davis's encounter spread quickly through Bishopville. At first, people dismissed the story as the frightened imagination of a teenager, but then more reports began to surface. Families living near the swamp claimed to have seen a strange figure moving in the night, tall and reptilian. Several car owners awoke to find their vehicles mauled, the metal torn and chewed as though some wild animal had tried to break inside. One case involved a car so badly damaged that law enforcement struggled to explain how the chrome bumper had been bent back with such force. Sheriff's deputies investigated, but no clear evidence was found. Skeptics suggested it might have been a bear, a rogue alligator, or even a prankster in a costume. But those who claimed to have seen the creature themselves swore it was none of those things. They spoke of a lizard man, a monstrous humanoid born of the swamp, something that seemed more ancient nightmare than flesh and blood. By mid-July of 1988, the legend had become a media sensation. Reporters from across the country arrived in Bishopville, eager to interview the teenager and anyone else who claimed a sighting. News cameras showed footage of claw-marked cars, while locals debated whether the creature was real or just a story gone out of control. Merchants began selling Lizard Man t-shirts, mugs, and bumper stickers. For a time, Bishopville was no longer a quiet southern town but the epicenter of America's newest monster mystery. Despite the carnival-like atmosphere, many residents took the matter seriously. Hunters reported hearing strange screams echoing through the swamp at night. Some even claimed to see glowing eyes watching them from the trees, only to vanish when they drew near. The sheriff's office issued warnings for people not to venture too deep into the swamp after dark. Parents kept their children close, afraid that the lizard man might come stalking out of the trees. Over the years, sightings have come and gone. Some claim to have glimpsed the lizard man crossing a road at night, its massive frame illuminated by passing headlights. Others tell of fishing trips in the swamp interrupted by the sound of something large moving through the water, unseen but clearly nearby. A few even insist they've heard its unearthly roar, a chilling mix of growl and hiss that silenced the frogs and crickets in an instant. Whether real, a case of mistaken identity, or an elaborate hoax, the lizard man of Scape Ore Swamp has become a permanent part of South Carolina folklore. He is celebrated at festivals, painted on murals, and remembered in tales told by locals and visitors alike. Skeptics roll their eyes, but for those who have stood at the edge of Scape Ore Swamp at night, with the mist curling around their feet and the silence pressing in, the thought lingers, perhaps something is still out there, watching from the darkness, waiting for the next traveler to wander too close.